Welcome everyone to another episode of The Asylum with Harley and Joker. I'm your host Harley, as always joined by the Blood Countess lover, Joker himself.
That's right. Joker is a lover to many ladies, especially a blood countess.
Well, tonight we are talking about the Blood Countess herself, Elizabeth Bashford. I can't pronounce her name right anyways.
Bathory. Elizabeth Bathory.
Bashford.
Ew.
Volume's not low.
Goddamn sticky shit.
Okay, guys. Hold on, I don't know what it is.
Okay, that's better. Okay, once again, welcome guys to another episode of The Asylum with Harley and Joker. Now that you could actually hear me.
CC.
Okay, so if you guys don't know who she is, this is one of the pictures that I found of the adaptations or like what people perceived her
Hello,
as.
Hello, Spank Bank.
There's
Nice to meet you, Elizabeth. Mm.
so many. Like there's this one that was of um a show of her, and there's quite a few shows of her, and I've got a few clips for you guys too tonight. I like this one. I watched this one on Netflix.
Mm.
And for those of you guys who don't know who she is the one who killed virgins and bathed in their blood. See, even Lady Gaga played her on American Horror Story. She was the Blood Countess.
That was a shitty season.
Yeah, but it was like Lady Gaga's first season, so
Yeah. If you want to see a better interpretation of her, watch Hostel 2.
yeah.
Who was Elizabeth Báthory, and why was she known as the Blood Countess? In the 16th and 17th centuries, Countess Elizabeth Báthory was a noblewoman from the Kingdom of Hungary. Due to multiple claims that she tortured and killed young women,
Claims.
Báthory was born in 1560 into a noble family and wed Count Ferenc Nadasdy at the age of 15. The couple resided in castles in Slovakia and Hungary while raising a large family. Báthory
Talk
was
about
charged with the
rape.
killings of
Talk about robbing the
hundreds of
cradle.
young women who worked for her in
Yeah.
1610. King Matthias II of Hungary was informed of the claims and requested an investigation. But what actually happened? In today's video, we are going to look into the life of Elizabeth Báthory. Let's dive right in. The
Well, that's
woman
what
who
she said.
became known in history as Countess Elizabeth Báthory de Eched, also known as the Blood Countess, and the murderer of 650 young ladies, was born on August 7th, 1560, at her family's farm in Nyarbator, 146
Nyarbator.
miles east of Budapest in the Kingdom of Hungary. Her mother, Baroness Anna Báthory, belonged to the Somlyó branch of the family, and her father, Baron George VI Báthory, belonged to the Eched branch. As a result, her parents were related by blood. What's in the name?
That's
The name Báthory means good hero in the literal translation, which is ironic given how Elizabeth has been remembered. The family had a long history reaching back to 1310. The phrase good hero was a reference to a family myth about a semi-mythical Báthory named Vitus, who in the year 900 killed a dragon that was terrorizing the countryside and was rewarded with the name Báthory in Eched Castle. the family estate that Baron George VI eventually inherited, but which was not constructed until the 1300s. In honor of this family lore, the báthory coat of arms included 3 exposed dragon fangs on a backdrop of red and white. Elizabeth Báthory was raised at Etched Castle, now called Nagyeched or Great Etched, in the northern Great Plain region of eastern Hungary, not far from the present-day Romanian border. As befitting a young noblewoman from a powerful family, she was well educated and was nurtured as a Calvinist Protestant. She spoke multiple languages fluently, including Latin, German, Hungarian, and Greek, and was widely regarded as clever and independent. Seizures and epilepsy. She appeared to have experienced seizures throughout her youth and complained of headaches, both of which may have been brought on by epilepsy, which ran in the Báthory family. However, epilepsy was not well understood at the time. It was often believed to be a moral or occult ailment or a sign of insanity, and thus it was kept a secret. Elizabeth's life was rife with contradictions, as she lived at the nexus of the Middle Ages and modernity, a time historians refer to as the Renaissance. Even though she had a Renaissance-style education appropriate for a woman, science did not fully comprehend her medical condition. Make sure to subscribe to History Flicks and dig up that bell icon so you won't miss any of our historical updates. Brutality. Although she had recently converted to Protestantism, the Holy Roman Empire, the region's dominant authority, and the Roman Catholic Church's enduring influence confronted her. Despite being exposed to the gore of medieval punishment, conflict, and violence, she was expected to represent the gentle image of femininity. On landed estates, whipping was a frequent form of punishment, and throughout much of Europe, the law imposed gruesome penalties that were frequently more severe than the degree of brutality of the offense. Women accused of witchcraft or acting unwomanly were burned alive or drowned, and treason, the most heinous of all crimes, was punished with grotesquely innovative forms of torture designed to kill and inflict the greatest amount of suffering. For example, limbs may have been amputated for a minor thievery. Marriage. Whom was Elizabeth married to? Elizabeth, an attractive and intelligent young lady, got engaged to Count Ferenc Nadasdy at the age of 11. Before
Damn.
getting married, she gave birth to an illegitimate child who was fathered by another man. On May 8th, 1575, 15-year-old Báthory wed Nadasdy. 10 years later, in 1585, the couple welcomed their first child. There were 5 kids born to Báthory. 2 died as infants, but 2 daughters and a son survived. The pair spent the majority of their marriage apart because her spouse was a soldier who was frequently away battling Ottoman Turks. But while they were together, he might have instructed her in the art of torture.
The Turks
Báthory
made fine
assumed
furniture.
control of Nadasdy's vast holdings after his death in January 1604. Harrowing list of crimes. Báthory was charged with a harrowing list of crimes committed against minor noblewomen who came to her for instruction and training, as well as female servants. After her widowhood in 1604, the majority of the alleged attacks and murders allegedly occurred. Báthory coated some of her victims in honey and left them outside for insects to eat. Young ladies might be
That's
stripped naked
torture.
and coerced into lethal ice baths during the cold months of the year. Girls were occasionally tortured by Báthory by having needles inserted into their fingers, having their lips or
Ow.
noses slashed, or being whipped with stinging nettles. She bit some victims' shoulders and breasts and burned their flesh, even
Wouldn't
their
want to be a girl
genitalia.
in that time frame.
Báthory's attacks were intimate, which
Well,
raises the
you wouldn't
possibility
want
that she had a
you wouldn't want
sexual
to
motive,
be
though it's
regardless. But
impossible to
yeah,
say for sure what drove her to do what she did. Bloodbaths. Báthory is frequently depicted taking baths in virgin victims' blood to regain her youth. Báthory's
titties.
bloodbaths were first mentioned 100 years after she passed away, suggesting that it may have been a rumor created much later. The investigation. The Lord Palatine of Hungary, Count Georg Thurzo, visited Báthory's castle active on December 29th, 1610, to look into the Countess's alleged crimes against women of noble descent. Note that any mistreatment of servants was not a concern to authorities. He apparently
Why
surprised
would it be?
Báthory when she was torturing a victim, and as a result, locked her up in her house right away. Her high status meant she would not be jailed as a common criminal.
Of course
Then,
not.
3 female and 1 male servant of Báthory were taken into custody, interrogated, and tortured. Early in January 1611, their legal hearings got underway. Even though they claimed to have buried between 36 and 51 dead, these slaves nevertheless denied being responsible for the killings. They assigned blame to their mistress, each other, and a deceased servant named Darvulia, who had worked as a maid and governess. The male servant and 2 of the ladies were given death sentences, which were swiftly executed. The 4th was not put to death right away. It is unknown what happened to her after that. Soon after, another woman who had allegedly utilized magic to help Báthory was also killed. Thurzo carried on his investigation into the Countess after these executions. Although the number of fatalities varied in other testimonies, and the Countess's precise death toll is still unknown, one witness said that Báthory herself had listed 650 victims in her files. 289 witness statements were also part of the evidence that Thurzo obtained. Báthory's family was prominent, thus, she wasn't placed on trial. Instead, she lived alone at Castle Actis, maybe walled in, where she remained until she died in 1614. Báthory's assets were handed to family members rather than being seized because she was not found guilty of a crime. The evidence used to
No, the
convict
servants
Báthory
were.
is flawed. Innocent or guilty? Was Elizabeth Báthory innocent or guilty? More than 250 of the 289 witness reports provided only hearsay or no information at all. A court officer's second-hand report of what they had learned led to the allegation that Báthory had listed 650 victims. However, the official who was allegedly in possession of this information declined to testify. Thurzo, who led the entire investigation, had ties to many of the witnesses who testified against Báthory. Additionally, the abuse Báthory's servants underwent renders their testimonies doubtful. Could Báthory have been the target of outside plots? Family members were able to control the wealthy widow's belongings because she was imprisoned. Her son-in-laws knew beforehand that her arrest was coming. She owed money to the Habsburg court, which they refused to pay. Additionally, Báthory might have been in danger because she backed her nephew, Prince Gabriel Báthory of Transylvania, who was at odds with governing Habsburgs. Probably not innocent.
Wait a
Both could
minute.
not have been
Transylvania
fully
and a
innocent.
blood countess.
A priest discussed Báthory and her husband's severe harshness to their employees in a letter he wrote in 1602. True
Well,
accounts
they
of
did say
Báthory's
she
severe
was the
treatment of
first
members of the
vampire.
lower classes could have been used in the testimony against her. Even though Báthory's crimes were not against the law at the time, they still resulted in many destroyed lives. The reason Báthory was punished was because it was claimed that some of her victims were noblewomen. Death. On August 21st, 1614, a 54-year-old Báthory was discovered dead at Castle Actis, located in modern-day Slovakia, where she had been detained in 1610. She was initially laid to rest in the crypt on her estate, but it's possible that her body was later transported. This is the story of the most vicious female serial killer in all recorded history. Where fact ends and fiction begins in her horrible story is now impossible to determine. But in her fame as a legendary vampire, she is outrivaled only by Count Dracula. So, there you have the story of the Blood Countess.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Interesting. She
She,
is an interesting character in history.
yeah.
And the product of a lot of great songs. So, you know.
Yeah. We shall see more of that one on our bracket in
Dark
2
truth
weeks.
behind the killer legend, Countess Elizabeth Báthory. Countess Elizabeth Báthory is known for legendary sadism. She is one of the most prolific female murderers. Whatever the case, the story of Countess Báthory is one of an evil woman who sucked the soul out of her victims for vanity. She was a real-life vampire, a torturer, a horrid human who bathed in the blood of innocents in a bid to keep herself looking young. Elizabeth Báthory was born on a family estate in Royal Hungary in 1560 or 1561. She was the daughter of Baron George Báthory and Baroness Anna Báthory. She was of noble lineage, including having relations to the King of Poland and the Prince of Transylvania among her relatives. This bloodline was one of generational inbreeding.
I'm seeing more of the
parents
Dracula
who were
connection
close
there.
relations.
Yeah.
This is believed to be why she suffered from poor health throughout her childhood. She suffered from severe epileptic seizures that led to an array of crazy cures that inspired many of the most insidious stories about the Báthory vampire legend. Her life has become a conspiracy theory due to the lack of hard evidence of her childhood, but it is alleged that her evilness manifested itself during her childhood, and some conspiracy stories suggest that her seizures were treated by rubbing the blood of a non-sufferer onto her lips or using a piece of their skull, and this led to her needing more and more blood. Another theory states that her family trained her to be cruel and satanic, but this is not backed up by evidence, as she was a young girl who lived a privileged and luxury lifestyle alongside other Hungarian nobles. As was often the case, she was engaged at a young age, and at only 10 years old, she had been promised to Ferenc Nadasdy, a nobleman and heir to one of the wealthiest dynasties in the region.
It's crazy the
but
fact
still
that
of
she
lower
was
social
married at
standing than
11.
Elizabeth.
Oh, in
They
those
married
days,
when
they died young,
she
so that
was 15
wasn't
and he was
uncommon.
19, and he
I
took the
mean,
surname Báthory.
it's uncommon now.
Only a few years after the wedding, her husband was
Yeah, well,
promoted
you
to
can't
the
compare
chief
life now to
commander
life
of
500 years
Hungarian
ago.
troops, and he was sent to war against the Ottoman Empire, leaving Elizabeth behind. She birthed at least 5 children, although some reports suggest she had another that died during infancy. And her husband died on the 4th of January 1604 at the age of 48, after 29 years of marriage to Báthory. By this point in time, allegations of atrocities had become commonplace across the kingdom. Word was beginning to spread about her sadistic activities. It was said that she enjoyed torturing and killing young girls, and at first they were servants at her castles, daughters of the local peasants, but later they included girls sent to her by local gentry families to learn good manners. She believed that the drinking of the young girl's blood would preserve her youthfulness and her looks, and witnesses told of her stabbing victims or biting their breasts, hands, faces, and arms,
That's kind of
cutting them with
kinky.
scissors, sticking needles into their lips or burning them with red-hot irons, coins or keys. Some were beaten to death and some were starved. Báthory was born in Transylvania in 1560 to a distinguished family that included kings, cardinals, knights, and judges. Though she counted many luminaries among her relatives, her family tree also featured some seriously disturbed kin. One of her uncles instructed her in Satanism, while her aunt also taught her. At the age of 15, Báthory was married to Count Nadasdy, and the couple settled into a castle. To please his wife, her husband reportedly built a torture chamber to her specifications. Báthory's torture included jamming pins and needles under the fingernails of the servant girls and tying them
Ow.
down, smearing them with honey, leaving them to be attacked by bees and ants. Although the Count participated in his wife's cruelties, he may have also restrained her impulses. When he died in the early 1600s, she became much worse, and with the help of former nurse Lona Jew and local witch Dorota, Báthory began abducting peasant girls to torture and kill. She often bit chunks of flesh from her victims, and one unfortunate girl was even forced to cook and eat her own flesh. Báthory reportedly
Ew.
believed that human blood would keep her looking young and healthy. Báthory's vulgar crimes became impossible for the authorities to ignore, and the Lutheran minister made complaint against her, both publicly and at the court in Vienna. But it took until 1610 for the king to act. Hundreds of testimonies were collected, and what they revealed stunned them. Witnesses reported that young girls as young as 10 were abducted by Báthory, beaten severely, and mutilated before dying a slow, painful death by freezing, starving to death. Some girls were burned with hot tongs or had parts of their faces bitten off. And the legend is that she bathed in her victims' blood to remain youthful and beautiful. But there is no testimonies or witnesses that say that this was true, and it is likely it was the truth being twisted into a tantalizing hearsay, exaggeration, and religious scaremongering. On December 30th, 1610, Báthory was arrested in her home, along with 4 of her servants. Many witnesses cannot offer first-hand evidence, but would insist the hearsay must be true. Many servants confessed to heinous crimes under duress and after intense torture sessions. Her public trial and execution was forbidden due to her high noble status, as the scandal would not be worth the attention. She was forbidden to leave her home instead until the day that she died in her sleep, at the age of 54, in 1614. Some believe that she was a victim of a political ploy to take control of her land, and others have raised the possibility that she was targeted due to her differing faith. However, there is a hard evidence that numerous bodies of dead and dying girls were found in the castle, and so the truth is probably simple. She was a sadistic aristocrat who believed that her privilege sheltered her.
Jesus. Some of these YouTubers' voices are fucking dreadful.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the clip of Lady Gaga playing the Countess. It's 28 seconds, so we should be good.
I got a meat suit you can put on.
Where's Donovan? Getting
What?
dressed, I hope. It's just been a while since I've seen him.
I said I got a meat suit you can put on.
And I thought Lady Gaga did good as the Countess because, like, every time she did it, she did pretty good. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, she was the best part of the season. That's for damn sure. But
Yeah.
well,
So
besides the serial killer aspect with the Night Stalker and everybody else that showed up in the one scene, but
yeah, the Night Stalker was hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but yeah. Sorry,
oh, he
I'm
was
tired
hilarious.
again.
He was hilarious. Don't fucking shortcut it.
I mean, that's one of my favorite seasons, but I think the
Oh
Asylum.
Lord, no. Oh,
The
Asylum's the best
Asylum's the
season.
best. That and the first one. But
And
then they
Coven.
just started getting the Coven.
No,
too. Then they
Coven and Armageddon were fucking incredible.
well now they're just getting kind of
Well, now, yeah, but like they were in their prime fucking 5-6 years ago.
yeah. And the last one where they had Kim Kardashian in it and
I'm
about the
seasons behind.
spider.
I stopped
Well, I
watching it.
didn't watch it. Like we showed the trailer for it on my other show, but the whole spider aspect, that was just stupid. It's like they
Yeah.
have nothing else they can come up with, so now they're just coming up with crap.
Ryan Murphy, call me. I'll give you ideas.
Okay, so what is your opinion on the whole? Was it made up for politician thing to take her land, or do you really think it's true?
It's in the middle. A lot of rich people back then had weird kinks and turn-ons and intimate things. So, did she possibly corrupt the daughters of nobles? Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. As hard as I have to think about, but I can easily see all her relatives and that wanted the money and stuff exaggerating what she did and probably killing the freaking people themselves to make it look bad for her.
Yeah, because, I mean, we don't kink shame here. We don't at all. So I see it.
I want to see it.
Well, there's movies about it. There's a lot of
Eh,
them.
it
Like,
ain't
if
the
you look
same.
on YouTube,
I need a
there's
time. God damn it, Harlequin! I need a fucking time machine in the boat. Let's go. Let's go. Or a
wow.
TARDIS. That would solve everything as a TARDIS. But you know.
Okay. Well, I think we are going to call it a show today. Guys, check us out next week. We will be airing on Saturday. We are going to attempt to do Joker's bracket of season 1 and 2 of South Park. Gonna attempt to.
So come
Because
back.
we
Come on back.
attempted to last week.
Come on back, you uncle fuckers. I'll get the 2-foot cucumber ready for you.
Okay, guys. For Joker, myself, we'll see you next time.
Cause you're an uncle fucker.